Hey, my name's Gabe Giannis, and if I hated you, you would know. I don't think the mic caught the dog heavy sighing in the background, but that would have been really hilarious. Welcome to this week's issue. I don't have anything special today. Like, there's nothing from David, there's no interview, there's no nothing. So I'm just going to talk about a few different things. I'm going to talk about taking a big risk on myself, because why not? I'm going to talk about Artemis II, and, honestly, those are probably going to be the only two things I'm going to think about or talk about. There's other things that are kind of swirling in my head, but they're like half-formed ideas, and as I'm trying to, work on these big projects, I don't want to get too distracted by something else, right? And the other idea that I have feels like something else that'll take away focus from that. So I'm going to hold on to it for a little while and maybe work on it as more of an article like the Descript one was. So, anyway, I'll be right back. So, the place I work is governmental. I guess I'll put it that way. If you know me, you know where. If you don't know me, because you're in the middle of, you're not in my friend circle or whatever, you can figure it out, but I just don't want to drag that all through there. The governmental agency that I work for is suffering a massive budget shortfall, as is the entire state that I live in, right? The state of Colorado has $1 billion budget shortfall. The city I live in has a $19 million budget shortfall. So, it's not looking good. Prospects are bad for me personally. Not necessarily the city. Things will survive. Things will go on. It's not the first time crazy things have happened in a municipality and they've had to recover. It just is what it is. But another strange situation has happened where the local city council person for my ward, which is my neighborhood effectively, is moving on to try to run for the state house. And so that position opened up. And because they need to fill it quickly, instead of an election, it's a job application. And I'm taking that risk. And that's scary for me. It's a big ask for me to be willing to present who I am to a general public. Because here, it's definitely, there's not a huge amount of interaction, right? I'm not a huge YouTuber. Maybe it would be different in a different world. But for the most part, I'm not trying to accomplish anything specific here. I don't have to, win you over or help you understand my perspective. If you don't like what I have to say, you can go, right, and find somebody else. Good chance the algorithm won't even share me with you because, I don't fit into your silo. I don't have to convince you that my opinion is right. You can come into the comments and tell me that I'm wrong, and we can have that discussion, as long as we can remain, cordial about it. This is different, right? This is me putting myself out there, flaws and all, to attempt to make the place that I live better. And that will involve compromise and teamwork and, finding ways to agree to disagree, but also to agree with people that I normally wouldn't interact with and that might have really negative preconceived notions about who I am based on, an old social media presence or an interaction that they had with me 20 years ago. Because I've lived here my whole life, and there's a lot of people that have experienced me a lot of different ways. There's people that have experienced hyper Christian punk kid. There's people that have experienced massive alcoholic speed freak line chef. There's people that have experienced, at the end of his rope, soon to be divorced church employee. There's people that have experienced freshly single in the throes of drinking binge Gabe. Like, there's so many different parts of me that people have experienced in positive and negative ways throughout the entire city, because I've lived here for a long time, for most of my life, and because it's an application, I get to express those ideas by answering questions. And what I really came to is that I found who I am better through service, right? The most important part of my job when I worked in church and parachurch ministry was the interactions that I had with people that needed help. Not necessarily the teaching people, the love of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, so much as saying, you have no groceries in your fridge. What can I do? You have a bill. Your water's going to get shut off. Let's find help. The moment I decided to work on a city commission, which is like a volunteer thing, they put me into historic preservation, and it fundamentally changed my life, because I went from just being okay with being a cab driver, being a cook that's smart, to seeing a way that I could serve my community better just by being myself. And now I get to teach people about the history of the city, and I get to interact with people in a way that helps them understand the place that we come from better. There's other risks I take. I've said a lot of, inflammatory things on the internet over my time, because people do. People are awful. It's why I've pretty much removed myself from the social media conversation, because it's toxic, and it pushed me into being toxic. And I think it does that with a lot of people. It's why we can't have these moments of togetherness and compromise, is because we're intentionally polarizing ourselves, right? Making it so that I can't talk with XYZ team. There's personal parts of me that I'm sure are hard no-goes for a lot of people, like my religion, for one. Like, being an atheist and being a card-carrying Satanist sounds big and scary until you take the time to look. And that's the point, right? The point is to engage people in something that's shocking, so that their brain snaps for a second and you can say, okay, now this is what it means, right? And it has a basis in literature and fantasy and creativity and mythology and, all of those different things. But most people will never take the opportunity to learn about it. So, because they've been told, right? I'd been told, everybody'd been told our whole lives, don't be this thing. And I'm not. I don't do satanic rituals and harvest baby blood. I just don't believe that there's a God, and found a framework that made sense for me. This framework of constant willingness to question authority, right? And I think that's important. Maybe in some ways I'm just making my case right here for why I'm a good fit, because I think that's important. I think it's important that authority is never self-justified. If I'm put into a position of authority, it's to serve a purpose, and that purpose is to represent the people of the neighborhood that I live in. It is not to be the authority. I don't get to justify my choices. I have to justify them through the people that I'm meant to represent. I can't just make an arbitrary decision because it services me. I have to make a decision because it services as many people as possible. I run the risk of having to face criticism and ridicule and shaming for a myriad of different things. And that's scary. But I think making the choice, the conscious choice, to want to serve my entire community is more important than my personal comfort. And I think that has its roots in being raised as a Christian. Even though I'm nowhere near that anymore. Like, I don't ascribe to so much of what Christianity has become today. The philosophies that I learned as a youth and even as an adult won't go away, right? This idea that my personal well-being is important, but it's of secondary importance to the people that I can help if I'm willing to suffer just a little bit. It's where I end up with a stance that says I'm willing to pay more taxes if people can have free health care. It's where I end up with a stance that says, pro-life means protecting everybody. That the death penalty should be illegal. That's where I was in high school because of Christian teachings. So different learning, different lives, different experiences, all of those add up to different perspectives that have put me in a place where I'm much more willing to accept different ideas and take big chances on some of those ideas. And one of those ideas is that I get better personally. The selfish part of this for me is that I get better at serving others when I put myself in a place where I have to serve civically, where I'm not part of a religious sect of any type. I don't isolate myself from that. I'm not part of any kind of fraternity or club because I don't want to isolate myself from another group of people. I don't ascribe to anything other than service to humanity. Doing my best to make other people's lives better. Doing my best to make other people feel heard and recognized in the government that's meant to serve them. So I took a big risk. I filled out an application, which is a weird way to get a job like this. And I've thought to myself that if I get this and I make this move, then what does the next step look like? Trying to go for the job again, which is an election. And I don't have the money for that. And I don't have political capital. So what does it look like for me? For a zine maker, for a YouTube zine maker, a part-time historian, a father of four, a husband, a video game nerd. What does that look like? It doesn't look the same, I don't think. It looks like going door to door. It looks like flyering with a Xerox machine. It looks like finding people that speak the probably like at least 5 languages that are in my neighborhood. For sure English, Spanish, for sure Arabic. Oh man, I know I worked with a dude that spoke Urdu. I almost said spook Urdu because those words are so full of vowels. Oh man, there's at least French. We hear a lot of French because of French colonization, and we have a lot of people in our city from Africa. So take the risk, right? Do what I'm gonna do and be myself and show up to the interview as me and present my ideas and present how I view things, present how I plan to interact with the people that are around me. And I'm going to do my best. So I'll keep you guys updated. I highly encourage you to take big risks on yourself too. My friend Brandon is taking a risk that he's really nervous about, running like a test kitchen basically. And he doesn't think he's got it, but I've tasted his creations. I know he's got it. You know, David does his spirituality and recovery stuff down in the San Luis, and you know, he's making a name for himself because he's doing good work by serving and by taking a big risk on himself. I think we can all do that. I think if we all stepped up and just said, what can I do? You know, I'll try not to cry during this part, but I talked to my oldest kid about this, and, you know, she said a lot of kind things, and I can do it without crying. She said a lot of kind things. This is practicing, because she also asked me to be the officiant for her wedding, so I got to figure out how to have big emotions about my oldest kid without crying. So you are witnessing the training. She said a lot of kind things and said that this was the most dad thing I had ever done. And I thought about how when she was a little kid, she was a big fan of the series of unfortunate events. And in the movie, they make a big deal about the girl tying her hair back, ready to go, sleeves up. I'm ready to go. Hair back, sleeves up. You can be too. Let's do some work. I'll be back after I get my shit together. Hey, I'm back. Alright, I got my shit together. Talking about my kids always gets me worked up. Like, best thing that ever happened to me. Like, genuinely. I was a horrific piece of shit before them, and I feel like in a lot of ways we grew up together. Like, we had to figure out life together. So, yeah. Good. They're good shits. I got a lot of big, strong feelings about them, and yeah, I'll share some more some other time about, like, the other kids, but I don't know why I'm burbling on about this. But, so, second thing I really want to talk about is the Artemis II mission, right? So, yeah, that's exciting, right? It's incredible to me that that humanity can work together in such a cogent and cooperative way that we can literally send somebody to, like, the outer reaches of our atmosphere, and then beyond that to a first stopping point to move on to literally another planet. Like, those are things that have been science fiction my entire life. I texted my friend Steve as I watched, the rocket launch on the news that night about how it immediately reminds me of The Rocket Summer by Ray Bradbury. I don't even know. It's been such a long time since I've read that story that I'm sure that there's, like, some other, like, aspect of that kind of puts The Rocket Summer into, like, a negative or a more cynical light, because Bradbury did have a tendency to do that sometimes. But, like, just that notion of, like, so many rockets launching that, like, the ground warms again and it becomes summer for, like, a brief moment. I mean, right there is a pretty cynical notion, like this, heating the planet up. I had a conversation with my youngest kid, who is almost 15, so, like, youngest is just relative. They're not, like, a kid. And they asked me, is it good that we're going back to the moon? And I was like, that's a really complicated question, because, for some people, it's probably, like, a big financial thing. We can figure out ways to like harvest the moon for its resources and, strip it of everything like we're trying to do of the Earth, and then figure out a way to go to Mars and do that. So that's probably financially good for some people, like morally and ethically probably awful. Like we definitely haven't learned our lessons from colonization, and who knows, like we don't know what's on Mars. Like we may attempt to colonize a planet that's teeming with life and we just don't understand it yet, which is very far-fetched and I don't believe really, but we just don't know, right? There's so much about space and the universe that we pretend like we understand, but literally is constantly changing because we don't really in the long run know. So is it good morally to like strip these places all of these resources? Probably not. I don't think it is. There's a certain segment of humanity that will find some kind of either religious or political justification for it. So, it's, I guess, goodness is relative in that sense. When we look at manifest destiny, we see that there's massive benefits to being able to traverse the entire continent. But there's also like massive drawbacks in the cost of human life by way of native genocide, right? So like, are those fair trades? In my opinion, no. In some people's opinion, yes. Like, it's a complicated question. Is it good? But here's what I landed on. The cooperative spirit of humans leads us to create. It leads us to build. It leads us to innovate. It drives us to explore. We want to see more. We're curious because we want to figure out how it works. Like, we want to know. And that's good, right? The things that happen in space help us here. We find ways to be more energy efficient. We find ways to, convert X to Y. We figure out how we can do something in a very difficult and dangerous environment that maybe allows us to discover something new, like under the ocean or in a volcano. So there's big benefits to what we do when we explore, right? We just have to be mindful that as we explore, we learn the lessons from the past. That we don't just assume that because it seems empty, it is empty. That because it seems like there's not anything there, that there's not anything there. Like, the universe may seem empty to us, but it's not. It can't be. Statistically, it can't be. We will encounter something that we don't understand, that we don't know how to respond to, that will understand us in some way that we can't even necessarily conceptualize yet. When we talk with students about manifest destiny, we talk about an interface between two different types of culture, right? Plains Indian culture that's very nomadic and would move from region to region, like in the state, for the seasons. And we talk about how a lot of the tribes would move up into the mountains in the summer because it's fucking hot. Nobody wants to be in, a desert in the middle of summer. So they go up into the mountains. But pioneers that are coming across the country, they're traveling in the middle of summer. So if you stop on the plains in the middle of summer, it seems empty. There's nobody there. There's nothing there. There's just heat and grass and endless. But then come fall, the tribes that live there, that use that land, that utilize that land in a nomadic fashion instead of a sedentary fashion, that rely on the earth in a different way, come back home. And both sides are like, who put this house here? Or, where did those people come from? And it creates instant conflict. We have to be aware of that. We have to be aware that we're going off, we're hurtling into the unknown. Literally. Like, yeah, we've done a lot of pre-exploration. We've done a lot of things. Lewis and Clark went across the continent and they encountered a lot of different stuff. But they had no clue what was going on. they had just a tiny sliver of an inkling of what was happening. And that was after centuries of people attempting to occupy and colonize the region. So, is it good? Yeah. We need to explore. We need to discover. Should we be careful? Fuck yeah. We have no idea what we're going to find out there. Does it make me excited? Yeah. Big time. I want to see the stars. I would love to. I probably won't, because I don't think it'll make my lifetime. But maybe my kids, maybe my grandkids. Maybe we figure out a way to solve the Earth's problems by solving them somewhere else. Maybe the key to energy production that we need is on the surface of Mars. Maybe there's something new that we'll learn that helps humanity through the cooperative effort of humanity to go into space. It should be exciting. It should be hopeful. It's like the only thing that I see on the news that doesn't make me want to rip my hair out. And they get music every day as a wake-up call. And like some of it's funny, and they were playing Pink Pony Club and it didn't get to the chorus, and he called back, "Oh, we were waiting for the chorus, ground control." There's something I love to talk with students about. At the very heart of humanity, at the very beginnings of Homo sapien, like when we have evolved to be humans, right? We are the same, species. We have speciated to Homo sapien. That person, those few people, those first people, they thought a lot like us, right? They didn't have technology. They didn't have the wealth of education and knowledge that we've gained. But when they put a strawberry in their mouth, they went, "Whew, that's good. I like that." And when they stepped on the prehistoric equivalent of a Lego, like a thorn on the ground, they said, "I need to find something to cover my feet." We are the same. And as soon as we shoot up into space, we don't change. We're waiting for the hook on Pink Pony Club. We are worried about if the toilet works right. We're excited to come around the dark side of the moon and see the Earth again, because that's home. So, yeah, just hope. Moving forward, finding ways to work together in the midst of the bullshit, the chaos that's going on, is just beyond awe-inspiring. To see these 4 people hurtled into space, fly around the moon. They're heading back now. They're supposed to be back by Friday, so well after this video comes out. But if you're magically watching this in the future, which I highly doubt, hopefully they made it back safe. It's hard to deny, what that feels like. And I think that's good, right? The good isn't even in the action, it's in the emotion, it's in the hope, it's in the joy, it's in the dreaming, it's in the wondering, the curiosity. It's like our imaginations can go crazy with it, right? You have people like Bradbury and H.G. Wells and back in science fiction, and the things that they were talking about, some of them slowly came true, because at one point someone was sitting with, their copy of Blade Runner and thought to themselves, "Ooh, an electric car would be cool," and hopefully somebody figures out the flying car thing. That's the joke, that, we expected flying cars a long time ago. But when you really think about it, without kind of sensory things so that they can fly themselves, is a terrible idea, because I've seen how some of you people drive, and I don't want to see any of you fly. But science And science fiction give us imagination and curiosity and can breed hope in a way that religion can too, right? And those different things can inspire us and push us, but now we get to see the tactile, the actual, the physical, where somebody got in a ship and shot into space. And that is awesome. It's even while we're busy tearing each other apart, like our countries are at war and raging, and old alliances are falling apart and new alliances are being formed that don't look super great for the country that I live in, we still managed to work together. We still found the way. We still found the community, the compromise, the drive, the desire, the cooperation to shoot people around the moon. And we plan on landing on it next year and then building on it the year after that. That's great. It fills me with hope that maybe, just maybe, if we can collectively pull our heads out of our asses, we can do something bigger and better. This episode is just about serving our community and dreaming and hoping big, because shit, there is not a lot of that right now. Where you're at, you can make a difference. Who you're with, you can change your circumstance to find a way to help others. You might be at the bottom needing help, and even you can find a way to help others. I've never been rich. I hope never to be, honestly. My grandma taught me everything I need to know about that. If you showed up at her door, she fed you. Period. No questions asked. Town drunk, town asshole, town saint. You walk in that door, my grandma fed you. You walk in my door, I will feed you. First, I'll offer you coffee, because always coffee. We can do incredible things by just being there for people. Put the phone down, walk away from this. Tie the hair back, roll the sleeves up. Let's get to work. I'm just going to call this issue that. I'm just going to leave it there. I don't need to do much else. I'll be back with an outro. Voice cracked a few times this episode. Had a lot of big feelings, a lot of just desire to see the world become a better place. It's something that has been inside of me for a very long time, and I have always wanted that. Back in the long ago, when I believed in prophecy, somebody prophesied over me that I would one day change the world for Jesus. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe I can change the world for a few people that need help that are around me. I'll shoot for that. Let's try to make that prophecy fulfilled. Gonna tie my hair back, roll my sleeves up. I figure I say it 3 times so that the video title is worth it. Anyway, until next time, I'm not that interesting of a guy. I'm just interested in interesting things. And if I hated you, you would know.